Guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for the Vampire Diaries Season 5, Episode 20, What Lies Beneath. And, oh my god, this is another great episode of the Vampire Diaries, because, what I really liked about this episode was, the ending was so intense to this episode. No, this episode was not as good as last week's. I didn't expect it to be. But it still was such a great episode, and at this point, I don't think the Vampire Diaries can do wrong, and I think that's fantastic. They can't do no wrong, and I think that's what I love so much about this show, is that they're not doing anything wrong, and I love everything they're doing right now with this show. I think it's fantastic, and especially that ending. I'm really interested in seeing where that's gonna go. Let's just get to this, episode, though, because I, again, really thought it was another fantastic episode. So, of course, our main plot has to do with Damon and Elena, and we see Luke chanting, and it's really annoying Damon. He's trying to run a locator spell, but he says he can't get, a read on Enzo, and Stefan is surprised. That's why Damon brought Luke there, and he asks why he is looking for him. And Damon says he's worried about Enzo coming back for revenge again since his humanity is off. Stefan plants the idea that Enzo may be using a witch to run a cloaking spell, and the two of them seem to buy that. Because, the big thing is they don't want to tell anyone that, Stefan basically killed Enzo. They don't want anyone to know. So they're basically just making it seem like Enzo's still alive and he turned his humanity off. So, they head to Caroline's family cabin. By the way, it was great to see Caroline again. That was the only thing that was missing from last week's episode, was Caroline. And it was great to see her again, because, Caroline, she's my favorite character, so. Caroline basically says they don't have to be invited to, which is good news. But once alone, Stefan reminds Elena how important it is that Damon did not know about Enzo. And Stefan tells her that Damon was the one that brought her home last night. And she said that that was the exception to his no Elena rule. And Caroline tells them to get into the house so they're less of a target. They go in, and then Caroline gets the heebie-jeebies. So, basically, Stefan's trying to cover up the whole Enzo dying thing and Enzo being dead. Because he doesn't want Damon to find out that Enzo is dead. But at the same time, Elena doesn't know that Stefan killed Enzo. So, we kind of like a really cool thing going on here, and I really like that. She looks down into the woods. Caroline looks down the woods, and then she senses something. Enzo is there propped in the door jamb, and Caroline walks past him into the house. Damon comes in as Enzo unpacks and tells her it's cozy. She says she used to come there when she and Caroline were younger, and he comes into the room, and she says she used to come, so he comes in the room and says he's supposed to be avoiding her. She asks if that's still what he wants, and he says yes and no, and then I don't know. She tells him Luke did the cloaking spell, and if it's too hard for him to be there, he can go. He asks if she's kicking him out, and she says yes, no, and then I don't know. Again, Elena's kind of confused right now. Damon tells her he's sorry that Enzo came after her. She says it's not a huge deal, and he says it is, and he's going to hunt Enzo down, kick his ass, then make him apologize in person. Then that reminds her of her lie, and she makes an excuse to leave the room. So Elena tells Stefan that she had to lie to Damon's face, and he tells her that Damon lied to her plenty. And they're in the barn, and so is Enzo's angry ghost. Enzo is just pissed off at this point because Enzo wants revenge because Stefan killed him, and he wants revenge on him. So it makes perfect sense as to why Enzo went after Elena, because he knows that that's the girl that Stefan loves. So, it makes perfect sense. They leave the barn. Enzo slaps the light, then gets excited because he realizes he can manipulate objects in the corporeal world. And he says, now there's an interesting development. So Damon is playing bartender, and Caroline is writing down clues for charades. And they are all secrets people think they're getting away with, and this is kind of cool. The episode, was basically about secrets, and that's what I thought was kind of cool about this episode, it was all about kind of keeping secrets. And, she's looking at things like the Watergate and the JFK assassination. She takes an odd tone. He asks her what's up, and she says Stefan and Elena have been secretive. She says she caught them being hushed and whispery, and then he says Elena got cagey when he mentioned Enzo. He asks how much she's had a drink before they can chat more. Elena and Stefan come in, acting odd, and Damon whispers to Caroline. So Enzo is sulking, and inside they're playing charades. Stefan and Elena, I thought this was a very fun scene. You know, Stefan and Elena are on one team, and Damon and Caroline are on the other team. And Damon and Caroline are staring at them suspiciously. Damon suggests they play Never Have I Ever, which, by the way, that is a great game, personally. I love to play that game. You know, I've been to a couple parties before, and I've played that game. Very awkward, you know, situation when you play that game, because, you know, when you have to be, like, completely honest about the things. And I really think that's a fun game, though. And they decide to play Never Have I Ever. And basically, Caroline starts saying Never Have I Ever Died. They all drink. Stefan says possessed by his evil doppelganger. Then Elena drinks and says that she's been possessed and fooled everyone. Caroline says she kissed a Salvatore brother once and no one drinks. So basically at this point, Damon then says Never Have I Ever Lied about Enzo. No one drinks, but then Damon starts to get suspicious because Elena says she's drunk and going to bed. Damon goes to fix another round. Elena runs a hot bath, and in the steamy mirror, we see Enzo behind her, and he says she's trying to wash the guilt straight down the drain. She turns the water off, gets in the tub, and I thought this was a really good scene, because he's kind of telling her, you know, you're just trying to wash the guilt away. You're not really facing the problem here, which the problem is that you are lying, you're lying about all this. You know the truth, and you're not telling anyone. She's relaxing the bubble, and Enzo pushes her head under the water, and she struggles to get up. Enzo holds her unclear. She gets her head above water, cries out for Damon. He rushes in, pulls her out. He asks what happened, and she says someone is in there. She says she couldn't see them, but they were pushing her underwater. He asks why a ghost would be targeting him, and she cries. You know, knowing that she can't tell Damon. I think that's pretty much why she was crying, because she knew that at the same time, she was very startled by what just happened, but at the same time, she knows she can't tell Damon that Enzo, that it was Enzo that was doing that to her. So, it definitely was really interesting there. So, Stefan calls Bonnie and asks her if a ghost could physically affect this plane, and she says it could happen, and Stefan says it must be Enzo. Caroline overhears, and he admits that he killed him. He asks why he didn't tell her, and he says it's complicated. Damon comes in, says Elena just told him. Stefan asks if they can talk about this later. Damon gets snippy. He says the other side is falling apart, and Enzo is missing with them, and Damon calls out to Enzo and tells him to stop it. So then Enzo is there, and they try to figure out what he wants. Caroline says drowning Elena wouldn't have killed her, and she wonders if he was just trying to scare her. Then Damon says, was it just a distraction? He says Enzo must have figured out a way to kill them all at once. Damon runs out to the porch. Luke is gone. The blocking spell has been broken. They hear the travelers chanting, and Marcos tells the other travelers, I found them. They realize the travelers know where they are. And, they want the doppelgangers. As we know, they have doppelgangers, and that's why they're there. So Caroline and Elena run outside calling for Luke. Elena and asks Caroline if she's upset. She says because she and Stefan lied, they are now all at risk. And Elena says she was worried about Damon spiraling. And Caroline says she's not Damon, and they could have told her. I just thought that was a huge scene, because Caroline's pissed at Elena, because they realize that she's telling him that I lied to you. And I feel bad for Caroline, because they lied to her. And Caroline's kind of like, wow, way to leave me just in the dust. I could have maybe helped you or something like that. And Caroline just kind of feels betrayed at this point, because no one told her anything, and she just feels betrayed. So Elena asks why Caroline implied she and Stefan were hooking up, and Caroline says she doesn't know, but it is over it, and they continue the hunt. So Damon and Stefan are hunting for Luke elsewhere. Stefan tries to explain about killing Enzo. Damon says it's the lie that bothers him, not so much the killing. Stefan says he was your friend. Damon says that means that he should have known that Enzo was dead, and he tells him to focus on finding Luke. And, I think it's just that Damon is upset because he's not upset that Stefan killed Enzo. In fact, I think he's happy that Stefan killed Enzo, because the good thing is that he's gone now. What he's upset about is that he's his brother, and he lied to him, and he feels like he should have known about it because he was so involved with it. So Damon asked Stefan what he and I really like this. This is when the episode started to get really, really intense here. Damon asked Stefan what he thought he would do if he found out he killed Enzo. Stefan says, I thought you would hate me. They hear a crackling, a creaking noise, go into a building, find Luke barely breathing. Damon sniffs, smells gas. Enzo's ghost is there, throws down the light to the floor. The building goes up in flames. The flames build higher. Stefan unties Luke. Enzo stabs Stefan with a tool, jams the door shut. Damon gets stabbed too. Enzo thinks it's funny that he and Stefan will die a flaming death. And Damon tells him that he can bring him back. He tells him about all the people they brought back from the dead and says she can help him, or he can just poof out of existence. So, Seven eventually gets free, pulls Luke up, and Damon tells him to go now. They head out, and then Enzo pulls the wood out of Damon's and then Damon pulls the wood out of Damon, and says, "Don't let me down again." So, that's all he says. He says, "Don't let me down again." And then Seven asks Luke if he's okay. Luke says his family has no compassion, but he says that the Salvatores protect each other. Seven tells him they need to get moving so Luke can protect them. Damon comes back in. Seven tells him that Enzo brought the lie. Damon says it wasn't a lie. He says he's going to find a way to bring him back. Damon punches Seven in the face, says that was for Enzo, but tells Seven that's the last time we'll hear about from him. Elena's shocked, and Damon walks out the door. And then we get probably just the cutest scene of the entire episode. I mean, Stefan and Caroline, you gotta love their friendship. Every time I see these two have a scene together, it's so cute. And that's what I love about their friendship. It's like the cutest friendship ever. And he basically just goes up to Caroline and says, "Never have I ever had a ghost try to burn me alive." And she's upset at him because he trusts Elena more than her. And he tells her there are things he tells her that he doesn't tell Elena. And, you know, kind of a cute scene there. And she asks why, and he says she had a little, basically, he did not tell her. We find out the reason why he did not want to tell her the truth. He didn't want to tell her because he knew she had something with Enzo, that they had some sort of chemistry, and he didn't want her to think any less of him. He sighs and says he'll meet her at the car when she's done. And then the very end of the episode, this was really weird. Stefan gets an odd sensation, turns around to look, Elena comes up, and Damon tells her to pack her stuff because they're leaving. He tells her to hurry. She asks if they're going to talk about it, and that she's sorry she lied to him. He says he doesn't care that she lied. She asks why he's being this way, and he says he knows she was worried that he would spiral. He tells her he didn't spiral like she thought he would. He says he's holding it together for her. He tells her being around her drives him nuts, and so does not being around her. And, you know, basically he grabs her up in a kiss. She is completely confused, and, you know, he kisses her. I was surprised when he kissed her. I'm like, what? And then she asked what that was for, and all he said was that, you know, he had a really crappy day, and he needed it. You know, just his day was, he just had a really shitty day. And, he walks back into the cabin. So, then the episode ends in a really weird way. Elena all of a sudden gets this really bad, awful pain in her head, and as soon as that happens, all the travelers come pouring out of the woods. And then Marcos grabs her around the neck while she groans in pain. So, I don't know what's going to happen there. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm definitely interested in seeing what's going to happen there. But overall, that was the main plot of the episode. Let's get to the subplot, which had to do with Bonnie and Jeremy and Tyler. I love the first scene. I really do, because Tyler's possessed, as we know, by this guy Julian. And, basically, you know, he's kissing, Julian's girlfriend. They're having sex, and she speaks his name. He pretends to be the traveler. He tells her he was having a bad dream, kisses her to cover for it. She tells him the chains are Marcos' orders because he's passengered in a hybrid. Marcos calls for Maria and tells her they're on the move. She tells Tyler they will have to wait, and he asks where they are going. She says the next camp and that Marcos is taking the doppelgangers today so they can do the spell. Tyler begins to struggle like he's having a spasm, and Maria tells him to open his eyes. It's Tyler wolfing out. She runs for help as Tyler begins to shift. But it's too late. He's all wolf. She turns in horror, wondering what's behind the curtain she ran from. Several of the travelers creep closer as Tyler explodes from behind the screen, and Maria screams. Tyler then bursts in, gives them a 401 on how the travelers are planning on using the doppelganger blood to break the witch spell by making them vampires and then human. You know, they have that cure now, which I love the way that episode ended last week with them having that cure. I thought that was really well done. And, you know, we really expand upon that in this episode. Basically, then what happens is, you know, basically what happens is that, Graham, Jeremy and Bonnie are making out, but he stops and wants to talk to her about the other side, slipping away, as he knows that she could disappear any second, so he's really concerned about her, and she reminds him that they have the weekend in themselves, and that Liv is working on a spell to save her, and Jeremy gets a text telling him Tyler's back, so he says they should get over there. He goes to grab his stuff when she sends in something from the other side, and it's Graham's, and she wants to know about the spell Liv is working on. She tells Bonnie she shouldn't be lying to Jeremy, and she needs to be honest. Graham tells her people are being swept away. When it all goes, Bonnie will go too. Graham knocks the lamp over. Bonnie's surprised. Graham tells her the place is falling apart and orders her to tell Jeremy soon exactly what's going on. So Jeremy's working on something when Bonnie tells him she wasn't picturing them spending time with two other guys. Jeremy mixes up a solution of Wolfsbane and Vervain. Matt chains Tyler up. The formula was Tyler's idea. Bonnie leaves, says she can't watch. They think him drinking this will put him in the background and let Julian take control. He tells them they have to deal with it. Bonnie says a spell word. Julian is there struggling and in his chains freaking out. He asks where he is, and they ask where Marcos is. And Matt tells him he is his best friend. It's about to be his own personal hell. They force him to drink the solution as he struggles. Marcos chews out Maria for not knowing there was Tyler in the body instead of her husband, Julia. He yells, instead of her husband, Julian, I mean. He yells at the other travelers to get to Channing and find the other doppelgangers. And then what happens is the guys are working over Julian, demanding to know where Marcos is. He asks why it matters, and he says Marcos destroyed the traveler knife, and the only way to get rid of him is to kill Tyler. So Matt says he won't kill him, but he will get answers and cause some horrible pain. Julian has had enough, and then tells him he doesn't know where Marcos is, but he knows where his body is. Basically, Bonnie and Jeremy, they then are on the search for Julian's body, because they want to basically get the actual Julian back. They don't want Tyler to be attached to Julian, obviously. They want to get the actual Julian back, so basically, Bonnie doesn't think it's much fun for their date weekend. I thought that was kind of funny. Then they come upon a catch of dozens of traveler bodies, and they realize that means that many people have been taken over. And, basically, then what happens is Bonnie is searching for the bodies. Julian told them he had an eagle tattoo. She finds a bird on an arm. Jeremy says it's a dove. He tells her this is the worst date ever. She says at least they're together. She says it could be worse. And then Maria is there. She says it just got worse. The traveler's chance. They're choking Jeremy by restricting his airwave magically. And then the last thing we see is Bonnie and Jeremy come back, tell Tyler the travelers took Julian's body. He asks why they took it. And Tyler starts getting flashbacks of memories when Julian was possessing him. Tyler tells him that he's seeing Julian's life. He says when Marcos took the knife and destroyed it, it killed Sloane. As we know, it killed Sloane. And Bonnie says they are doing the spell to make Julian in Tyler permanently. Tyler begs them to make it stop. He moans in pain, then collapses. Jeremy touches him, but it's the traveler's black eyes he sees, which means Julian is back and tells them they must not have found his body. So Julian has now taken complete control of Tyler, and you know what this reminds me of, guys? This really reminds me of Teen Wolf with Styles and the, what am I trying to think of? The Uni, the Nagitsune, it kind of feels like that with Teen Wolf, and now Vampire Diaries has done it. I don't think the Vampire Diaries has, necessarily copied Teen Wolf, it's just that it's very similar. But overall, this episode, again, was fantastic. I love the whole message of this episode, which is basically all about lying and keeping lies from people. I just thought that was really strong. And the other thing is, now, what's going to happen with Tyler? I'm kind of thinking Tyler's going to die. I think Tyler's probably going to die this season. They said 3 major characters are going to die. It's going to be Bonnie, Jeremy, and Tyler. I'm 100% sure at this point that it's going to be Bonnie, Jeremy, and Tyler. Because they're all screwed at this point, and I don't know, what's going to happen to them. We know it's not going to be Damon, Stefan, or Elena, because if they die, then the show is just, I don't know. But what is Marcos going to do to Elena? I don't know what's going to happen there. What's going on with Enzo? It seems like Enzo just wants complete revenge on everyone, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Enzo. Is Enzo gone? I don't really know. And the only other thing I want to know is what is going on with Tyler. Is Tyler going to die? What's going to happen there? We'll have to see. But again, love this episode. Fantastic episode. That's it for my review. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for Continuum. So see you guys for that. Bye.